I got married a month ago, and I'm no longer talking to my husband's best friend, Julie, 30 female. Neither is he. My husband and I find what she did distasteful and are looking to see whether we're wrong. So we planned a kid-free wedding. The only kids welcome to attend were my daughters from my previous marriage, a tween and a teen. Julie has 3 children, a pre-tween and 2 tweens. We also had a limited amount of seating available due to pricing and food catering. So I only had 50 seats, and therefore I told Julie she couldn't bring her kids, but she and her husband were both invited. Julie told me very early on that she doubted she could find a babysitter and made it clear she refused to hire someone they didn't know, but told me she would do what she could. About 2 weeks before the wedding, she confirmed that her mom was watching the kids, but then 2 days before the wedding, she messaged me and said that her mom had bailed on babysitting for one reason or another. I can't remember what I said in response. But anyway, the wedding day comes and only 28 people of the 50 show up. I posted on Facebook saying, I have 22 extra seats at my wedding. Message me if you want to join us on our special day. I figured Julie would be the first one to reach out, but she never did. She reacted to my post, but that was it. She missed the wedding. My husband was very upset because this was his best friend and he wanted her there. Anyway, I reached out to her a few days later and told her that Wesley and I were very hurt that she didn't come and that this was our big day and we needed her. She responded, "Did you expect me to leave my kids in the car by themselves? At home? At a hotel?" I said, "No, I expected you to reach out to me and ask me if your kids could come after knowing that no one else showed up." She said, "OMG, okay. So you have a child-free wedding and you expected me to look like an idiot by asking you to make an exception for my children to attend instead of just messaging me directly?" My husband and I immediately blocked her after her hostile responses. He's feeling pretty crappy and thinks we may have overreacted. I think we're in the right, however. Am I the idiot for expecting my friend to ask me if her kids could come to my child-free wedding? You are the idiot. Julie respected your choice for a child-free wedding. At no point did you say, "Hey, we have 22 spare places, so we can accommodate kids if you have them." Any normal person would assume you were adhering to the no child rule and were offering 22 adult places. You're the ones who should have contacted her to offer to relax your own rules. Now you're angry because she did exactly what you told her to? Your husband should be feeling crappy because you both were crappy to Julie. But no one came to our wedding, OP tearfully states. I can't imagine why. I think OP expected Julie to beg her for an invite. I wonder how many other areas of life OP sucks in if she thinks she's in the right here and had almost half her wedding guests no-show. Right? Either there was a major natural disaster, like an earthquake or a hurricane, or this couple behaves like this all the time, and nearly half the people they know just couldn't face it on the day. Literally, only a bit more than half the invites showed. I'm not really surprised. I probably would have bailed on them too. If only half the people showed up to a wedding, it's very telling on how many avoid OP. Julie got a better outcome, and OP's most important day was a wake-up call for her. It's also weird of the OP to post on Facebook the day of the wedding saying, "Hey, I have 22 seats. Message me." Did she expect there to be a race to get a seat before the last one got snatched up? It's giving the vibe of an ad on the Facebook marketplace for an item you really think is a hot commodity, like, get it before it's gone. Who in their right mind would see an impersonal post like that on Facebook and think, I wasn't invited to this wedding, but now that I've seen this public broadcast of a Facebook post, let me message the bride to ask for an invite so I can then rush and get dressed up right now to attend this event that's already underway. No thanks. Who would do that? The biggest surprise here is that 28 people actually showed up to see you idiots get married. My 29 female brother Cody, 25, and I never had our dad in our lives, and our mom passed 3 years ago. We're really all the family we have left. Currently, we live together, splitting rent on a condo. Cody's dating Shannon, 24 female. I really like her, and we've had no issues until now. Last week, Cody was seriously injured. I'm his emergency contact and was told he was at the hospital. When I arrived, Cody's boss Martin was there. Cody and Martin have a great relationship, much better than most bosses and employees, so he was just as worried. And not in an, oh crap, what will this do to the company, but in an I'm really concerned kind of way. Shannon arrived not long after I got there. Immediately, she began screeching at Martin, asking how he could let this happen, etc. Martin was shocked and said he wasn't even around when it happened. Cody wasn't even at the main offices. He got into an accident on his way to a different site. It was in no way the company's fault. I tried telling Shannon that blaming people wouldn't help and that we needed to focus on Cody. Eventually, we got to see Cody, and thankfully he was okay for the most part. Shannon continued to freak out the medical staff, stressing Cody a lot. Even the nurse told me to take a walk with Shannon because she wasn't helping things. I did so and told Shannon I understood this was scary, but she needed to take a breath. She apologized and said she was stressed. I totally understood. Cody came back to the condo and has been on bed rest. His work has given him paid leave and covers all the bills. I was doing the dishes on Friday afternoon when I suddenly heard screaming coming from Cody's room. I go in there to find Shannon standing by his bed. Cody's on a Zoom call with Martin and a few other high-ups, discussing the accident. Shannon is screaming at them that they better not let anything else happen to him, that they're lucky Cody didn't sue, and that they're all idiots. Cody looks embarrassed and keeps telling her to stop. Martin says they'll talk later and ends the call. When asked what happened, Cody said that he was discussing the company car that was totaled in the accident and when he could expect to get a new one. Shannon interrupted their conversation out of nowhere and flipped out. Cody looked exhausted, so I told Shannon to follow me. I asked her to leave. I said she was risking Cody's job and couldn't go around screaming at everyone. She told me she's just stressed. I said I got it. It was terrifying to get that call and see him like that. But Cody doesn't need everyone screaming, especially at people who've been nothing but nice. She got irritated and said she wouldn't go unless Cody asked her. I said it was my condo too, and I didn't want her there. So she left. Cody isn't mad at me, but he also says he wouldn't have cared if she stayed. Shannon, however, is angry at me and feels I was diminishing her feelings. Am I the idiot? You are not the idiot. Everyone deals with stress differently. Some of us scream when we really shouldn't, but being stressed doesn't mean it's okay to insert yourself into the situation and risk making it worse because you don't want to control yourself or observe quietly from the sidelines. She's hurting him, not helping him. You aren't diminishing her feelings. You simply aren't letting her run roughshod over him and the company while they try to figure out what to do next. Shannon needs to grow the F up. Screaming is a very immature way of dealing with this type of trauma. Blame storming is a very immature way of dealing with this situation. Her being stressed is honestly no excuse. You're stressed too, but you're not having a toddler meltdown like she is. Is this how she'll be if the relationship gets really serious with Cody? Partner disagreements? Financial issues? Kids? Yikes! Hopefully the girlfriend will pull her head out of her butt. Fingers crossed. I, 19 female, have an argument with my mom, 48, over my brother, 27. My brother's now married and has moved out of my parents' house and now lives in his wife's house. My brother always asked for money from my parents, even after he moved out. He and his wife both have jobs. My mom usually gives them $3,000 a month out of her $8,000 monthly income, but she gives me less than $1,000. But I'm okay with that because my parents have saved money to buy us both land and properties. I've been working part-time since high school to help pay for my college and to buy myself a nice laptop for studying. There were no problems here until my mother recently stopped working due to health problems. My brother started coming to my parents' house and demanding large amounts of money. He even asked me if I could lend him some money, and I ended up lending him some, but he kept asking me for more money and told me to get a full-time job instead of going to college. One night, my father talked about it with my brother, and my brother was mad about it. He stopped coming over for a while, but Yesterday he came. He told Mom that he needed money, but Mom doesn't have any because she used her savings to buy land for me and gave the rest of the money to my brother. So they asked me if I had some. I answered that I only had $15 and had used the rest of my savings to buy the new laptop and a bicycle to go to college and part-time work because they sold my motorcycle and gave the money to my brother. They both looked very upset, and she took that $15 anyway. This morning, my mom told me that my brother's actually in debt because of his gambling addiction. She asked me if I could help him pay off his debt, but I refused because I thought it was his problem and it was a consequence of his gambling problem. Now my mom has refused to talk to me. Note: I actually still have some money in my bank account. My father's often working outside the city, so he's rarely seen at home. My parents were rich, but things are different since Mom got sick and Dad has to work outside the city. Not the idiot. So what's your mom's plan when he pays off the current debt and creates a new one? Your parents are doing him a disservice by enabling him, and he's never going to hit rock bottom whilst your parents are his ATM. I mean, why would he stop if they fund it? It's time to go the tough love route and cut him off entirely, OP. Do not give him money, and do not leave him alone in the house, since I wouldn't trust him not to sell your belongings if he gets that desperate and won't seek help. Does your family seriously think having you quit college so that your brother can gamble away more money is a good idea? Wow, he needs treatment, and your mother needs to start prioritizing herself. She needs to take care of her own health and let your brother's problems be his problems. It's not your job to put your life on hold and bail out your adult brother, who should have his stuff together at this point. My biological dad died when my mom was pregnant with me. They had been together for 10 years, married for 2, and he died in a car accident when my mom was 7 months pregnant with me. She met my adoptive dad when I was 9 months old, and they got married, and he adopted me before I was 2. I had minimal contact with my biological extended family as a kid. Mom didn't give them much access to me, but she did allow some. She never talked about my biological dad, though. We had no photos of him at all. I had a pretty happy childhood. I sometimes wish I had a photo of Dad, but it wasn't until a few months ago that I had some more feelings about this. One of my friends and his girlfriend had a baby. It was a big deal because he was 19, and his parents didn't want him to be such a young dad. I'm 19 too, so it was surreal for me as well. But seeing him so excited to be a dad, getting ready for the baby, and even afterward, made me think of my biological dad. It made me think about how excited he was to be a dad. Then he died, so he was basically erased from the picture and never talked about to the kid he loved and wanted by the wife he loved so much. It made me kind of mad and sad. I sat with it for a few days, and then one day, I went to see my mom while my dad was at work. I asked her if she would tell me more about my biological dad, and she refused to. She told me we didn't need to talk about that, and imagine how my dad would feel if he walked in. I told her he had to understand he wasn't the only dad, that another man made me and wanted me, but he died before he could be my dad. She told me he was dead, and we were alive, and we didn't need to dwell. She also said it was strange to bring this up after so long. I told her seeing my friend become a dad made me reflect a lot, and I told her I wish she had talked to me about my dad when I was growing up. I hate that he was erased and replaced like he never existed. She told me it wasn't fair to expect that of her, and I was burdening her with my own emotions, which wasn't right. She also said I was being ungrateful to Dad for mentioning my biological dad. I left because she was really angry at me. Am I the idiot? No idiots here. There's no wrong way to feel in grief. It seems that, while for you, it would be cathartic to learn about your bio dad, talking about him would open a wound too painful for her to deal with at the moment, which is reasonable when grieving someone she loved for 10 years. She'd likely benefit from speaking with a grief counselor about it, but that's her choice. I hope you can both find some peace with this. Grief is a horrible thing to struggle through, even if it's not from a recent loss. I disagree. My understanding of child psychology is that the mom has failed OP pretty severely. and it was actually essential to OP's psychological development for him to have access to his father's side of the family and knowledge of his biological father. Experience with adoptees who are old enough to speak out is increasingly showing that biological ties do matter, and having that information is important. Not the idiot. I hope you'll be able to find other biological relatives to tell you about your father. Your mother's missing an opportunity to be a real parent herself. I, 35 male, and my wife, 35, have been married for 6 years. Some background. Several months ago, my wife gave birth to our daughter. I'll call her Sadie. Ever since my wife gave birth, she's been getting increasingly rude and refuses to do any work around the house and says she's still healing from giving birth, even though she always goes out with her friends. 3 months ago, my wife's stepsister, Hannah, 25, called my wife and asked if she could temporarily move in with us. She lived in a crappy apartment building, and tenants recently had to leave due to the unsafe conditions. Hannah didn't have enough to get another place right away, hence the asking. My wife seemed very eager to let Hannah move in, despite always claiming they never get along. They came to the agreement that she would help with Sadie in exchange for staying with us rent-free so she could save up for a deposit on a proper apartment. Everything was fine at first. Hannah has ADHD and took a week to adjust to living with us. During that week, she did all the chores my wife had been neglecting without us asking her to. I tried to tell her she didn't have to do all of them, but my wife waved me off and said that Hannah's ADHD makes her want to do it. Hannah backed her up. After she cleaned something, my wife would thank Hannah a lot. I thanked her as well, but my wife did it constantly, which seemed strange to me. My wife dismissed my questions and said it was normal to do with people with ADHD. Since then, my wife has pushed all childcare at any household chores I don't do onto Hannah. She's also been increasingly rude to Hannah and yelling at her if she makes a mistake on the first try of doing something. I tried to intervene when I was at home, but my wife would accuse me of wanting to let Hannah lay around the house being lazy because she was the R word. She and I got into a huge fight about her using that word to describe Hannah, and we didn't speak for a few days. My breaking point came when I found out my wife had been making Hannah pay her rent and buy baby supplies. I paid all the bills, and the money Hannah had been giving my wife was not going towards the house. My wife was using it to go out with her friends. My wife also made Hannah pay for food. I usually give my wife the money for food, and she bought snacks for herself with Hannah's contribution. I had another fight with my wife where she said Hannah was lazy, and if she didn't like her rules, then Hannah could sleep on the street and get out of her house. That's when I told my wife it's my house, as she doesn't pay any bills, and at this point doesn't do anything but be as lazy as she accuses Hannah of being. I would rather live with Hannah. My wife got quiet and has been refusing to talk to me or Hannah for the past few days, and I'm starting to think I crossed a line. Am I the idiot? Edit to add, I have no romantic or physical feelings for Hannah, and my wife was cleared for PPD a few months ago. Dude, it sounds like your wife is tired of you. Could she be cheating? Something is up there. I'd kick out your wife and let Hannah stay until she gets on her feet. Give her back the money that she paid your wife. Do you understand what a huge red flag it is that your wife lied to you and Hannah when she took Hannah's money and kept it for herself? Like, huge. No wonder they never got along. That's because your wife is an idiot. Apparently, she's totally comfortable lying to your face and Hannah's, and she has no problem pretending to not be married. You should grant her that wish. Yep, she's definitely dishonest. Plus, to add to what you stated, several months later, she's still healing and unable to do household chores? What a crock. Unless there's some major surgery related to birth, which I'm sure OP would have mentioned if there was, then there's no reason why she can't do tasks around the house 7 months later. She's lazy and a liar.